Your Holiness, I'd like to start by asking you about if you could describe the climate of repression of the Ahmadiyya Muslims that are facing in Pakistan.
Oppression.
Mm-hmm.
You see, the mainstream Muslims believe that the person who was foretold by the Prophet of Islam to reform the Muslims and the whole world at large has not come. And we believe that that has come, the person has come, and the title of that man, according to the prophecy of the Prophet of Islam, is of prophet and reformer. So this is the major cause of conflict and disturbance, enmity between, from the side of the Muslim, not between, but from the side of other Muslims. And because of that, they enacted a law in 1974 during Bhutto regime, declaring Ahmadis as not Muslims for the cause of law and constitution, for the purpose of law and constitution. And despite that, we were living there as we were practicing what Muslim practice. We were calling adhan in our mosque, praying openly. Whether other mainstream Muslims consider us Muslims or not, but we were doing all these things which Muslims do. Later on in 1984, during Ziaul Haq regime, this law was further reinforced by not by the parliament, but by the order of the martial administrator, that Ahmadis cannot claim themselves to be Muslim. They cannot profess and practice as Muslims do. They cannot even name their children as Muslims are given the names, Muslim children are given the names. And we cannot call azan, even we cannot say Assalamu alaikum, a Muslim greeting. If you do it, you will be imprisoned for 3 years. So this is the major cause of all this problem Ahmadis are facing in Pakistan.
Mm-hmm.
And not each and every member of Ahmadiyya community is suffering because of this. Those who are, not very active or living in remote areas or have good relations with their neighbors, there are quite a number of them who are living normal life. But even then, the sword is hanging on them, that the law can get hold of you anytime. After the incident of 2010, the two Ahmadi mosques were attacked by some extremists, and more than 84, almost 85 Ahmadis were killed. After that, instead of having or developing sympathy for Ahmadis, the enmity and the hatred increased, and it was fanned by the so-called Muslim clerics or ulamas. And because of that, even those Ahmadis living in remote parts of Pakistan who were living normal life till now, Even they are now facing problem. So the intensity of oppression is increasing day by day. And as I said, as long as this law is there, you cannot do anything. Because whenever you say the law enforcing agencies, police, and if you go to the court, they say, no, you said Assalamu alaikum, you are very much entitled for punishment. And they will not say that court and the law enforcing agencies should do this thing. They say people cannot tolerate. So if they want to take any action, they can do it. So there is lawlessness in the country, and especially for Ahmadiyya Muslims. And because of this, that despite the fact in some few areas now, there used to be quite a number of towns and villages where Ahmadis were living peacefully. But now because of this, the clerics or militant groups or extremists will go from outside to different villages and towns and incite the people there that you should raise voice and kill Ahmadis. So even if there is no any strong movement in those towns and cities or villages, but still there is a fear that anybody can come and so incite the people so that they raise up, and then sometimes enmity increases of the Muslims for the Ahmadis.
Why did the government take this position, of proposing a law? They effectively banned the Ahmadi people. Why?
You see, this is the only thing. Government should not interfere in the matter of religion. That is this secular and democratic government. But in the name of democracy, all is being done. They say it was the demand of the people that Ahmadis should be declared non-Muslims. So we have declared them non-Muslims. Right? But Ole, you say we are non-Muslim, okay, well and good. But you cannot compel us to, we ourselves claim and declare that we are non-Muslims. What I believe, I should be given the opportunity to express it, right? Or at least practice it, if not openly express. I can name my child, I can give any name to my child, no matter whether it is a John or Ahmad or Christian. Government should not interfere in these matters. Whichever name I like, I should be free to give that name to my child. So this is just nonsense. Mullahs, they do not have any political power in Pakistan. You will not see that they have increased they have got more seats in the assembly because of this issue. No. But yet they have, in a sense, value. They can mobilize the people, they can bring the people on the streets, and they can do whatever they like. And that this is one of the causes that government fears, not to take action against these people. Otherwise, if stern action is taken, I don't think it will take more than 2 months to just bring everything to normal.
I want to ask you about the community here in Canada. We were talking about freedoms of the Ahmadi people in Pakistan. What sorts of freedoms are the Ahmadi community have here, actually, in Canada?
What type of freedom we have here? We have here. We are free. We are free to practice. We are free to express our views. We are free to preach. We are free. There's the freedom of religion, freedom of jobs, of opportunities. freedom of everything. So, and that should have been in any of the secular government, any of the democratic government. Even in Pakistan, one thing is that after declaring the law, during Ziaul Haq regime, after reinforcing it, they say that Ahmadis cannot vote as a citizen of Pakistan with the normal citizen, but you'll have to declare yourself as non-Muslim before you will be given the opportunity to cast your vote. Right? We say, we claim ourselves Muslims. Why should we announce that we are not Muslims? And because of that, we are not taking part in national elections or local council elections or any of the elections. And this is also one of the causes we don't have our voice in the assemblies or in the councils. And this is what we have been asking all those people who are in the West, those who say that what we can do for you. We say we don't want anything from anybody, but at least let the Pakistani government realize that being a citizen of Pakistan, all Ahmadis have their equal rights, and at least right of vote. Okay, you declare us non-Muslims, but we should be given right to vote as a citizen of Pakistan, not as a person or individual of a particular religious group or religious sect.
Because effectively you don't actually have a say in...
Yes, this is why we don't have say. Yeah. And this is why they are actually mullahs and clerics, so-called clerics, are getting benefit out of it. And this is why politicians, those who have sympathies for us, there are a few politicians who have some sympathy for Ahmadis, but they cannot say anything because we are not giving them votes.
Do you see this changing at any time? Things will get better in Pakistan?
As long as, you see, I don't think they will ever repeal this law. No government will ever dare to repeal the law.
So what does that mean then?
So no change. Okay, if Allah wishes, some strong government comes or something happens miraculously, then so we can only wait for miracle, not in an ordinary way.
You preach this message of love for all, hatred for none. And I'm sure you're aware of what's happening at south of the border in the U.S., the election. There's a candidate, Donald Trump, who is basically proposing a ban on all Muslims in the U.S. Is your message love for all, hatred for none? Is it the same to someone who basically is creating a message that is quite hateful, I'd say? Would your message be the same to him?
To
Donald Trump?
Of course, you see. You mean that we hate Donald Trump or not? That is you mean? That is what you mean?
I just want to get your opinion about, what do you think he's actually
What he is
causing?
doing, he is just creating hatred amongst the American people. Mm-hmm. Right? So we say you should, if you increase hatred, so we are already passing through so many sufferings and problems and discrepancies and conflicts. So if you are trying to increase another one, then it means you are not sympathetic to the human being. You want to destroy the humankind. That is what he is doing. Right?
So how do you what is your message to him? How do you handle when you hear someone who is
If-
in a
if-
position of power?
If he ever takes my message, being a Muslim, he will say, "Oh, I don't want to listen to you." To see, let us see what happens. Now, I think he is losing his popularity among his own people even.
Mm-hmm.
But this is, by creating hatred, what will you gain? Right? Even I learned that there's going to be campaign of electing your leader of the Conservative Party, the previous government.
Mm-hmm.
One of the candidates yesterday announced that even if ever he was elected, he will also try to ban or put some restriction on Muslims by banning hijab or by banning the construction of mosques or giving the minarets to the mosques or such of types of things. So instead of getting lesson from Donald Trump that you have imported that concept here as well in Canada. This is why one of your leaders has started saying this thing. So instead of creating or developing hatred, we must all work together for the better cause of humanity, and that can only be done by trying to bring peace in the society.
Speaking of hatred, though, part of what's interesting is happening there is that there are part of the population believe him or listening to him. Why do you think that there are some Americans that are for this proposed ban?
Are supporting this ban?
Yeah. Yes.
You see, they might be having, some of them, having some personal experiences with some of the Muslims which have incited their grievances against Muslims. But I think majority of them know that even if he is elected, he will not implement all what he is saying. Or even if he is after having elected, they can actually influence him that he should not practice this. But it's a big, step. I don't think any American president who is a sane person can ever take this measure. They take this step to ban Muslims. Although you can ban Muslims from coming into the country, but what will you do? How will you behave with those who already living in the country? There are millions of Muslims living in the United States. And that are not Muslims, they have their own social ties. And quite a number of non-Muslims are also having some sympathy for them.
So what do you think would happen then?
I hope and I pray. Right?
I want to talk about Canada a little bit. How would you characterize Canada's treatment of Muslims here? You mentioned a
You
little
see,
bit about that before.
Canada actually is multinational country,
Mm-hmm.
multicultural. There are different ethnic groups here.
Mm-hmm.
Even I hope you are also immigrant.
My dad was.
Huh?
I was born here, but my dad was.
Yes, your forefathers.
Yep.
So the local people are actually the true Canadians. All others living here are they or their forefathers were immigrants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this society has, I think, the you have the capability, or you, I think, or you are used to of this, that you can adjust yourself within the society different, or you have the capability of absorbing different people. Or from different ethnic groups or religious groups. So here you have diverse type of cultures, nationalities, religions, languages. So whom will you touch? Against whom will you take step?
That being said, I feel like sometimes, because we are multinational, doesn't always mean that we are free of hatred here.
Yes, I hope, because of being multinational, you will remain safe from this, filthy act.
I just have a final question. I wanted to ask you about what it means to be an ally in terms of fighting Islamophobia. What does that mean?
Islamophobia. You see, what and how these Muslim groups or extremist groups or militant groups are doing. There is the natural reaction of those who do not know much about Islam, that they have some fear of Islam. Right? But if you read and see the true teaching and the history of Islam, you would not see that Islam teaches or asks their followers to behave in this manner. You see, what is jihad and what is happening? See, most of the suffering world in this age is the Muslim world, where Muslims are fighting against Muslims, right? Governments against their people and rebel groups against governments. And because of this, some extremist, big extremist groups like Daesh and Taliban and others have also emerged. And so they are all doing against the true teachings of Islam. This is why I always say this, because of this, instead of just seeing these people or seeing the actions of some single people or some groups in the West, as there were some attacks in Paris club or station, or in Germany or elsewhere. So by saying this you say all Muslims are the same. This is the teaching of Islam, and this is why we should fear Muslims and Islam. That is wrong. You have to see what is the true teaching of Islam. And you see, these extremist groups are just a nominal percentage of the Muslim population all over the world. So they do not represent Islam. They actually are doing all these things to gain their own vested interests. They are working for their own vested interests. Right? This is why we Ahmadiyya always say that you should, and we have been preaching it all the time, and I myself is doing this thing, that the true teaching of Islam is true justice, absolute justice. Even it is written in the Quran that the enmity the use of the people against you or should not stop you from doing justice. You must do justice even with your enemies. This is the true teaching. When the permission of war was granted first time, it was after the long persecution of Muslims in Mecca, and when the founder migrated to Medina, then infidels of Mecca attacked him, and then Allah granted the permission. And it is written in the Quran that now the permission is granted to you to fight back, to retaliate. Why? Because these people are not only fighting for so worldly things, but they want to eradicate the religion. Right? And if they were not stopped now, then there will not be any church, synagogue, temple, or mosque left on the face of the earth. So the permission was granted to save the religion, the institution of religion. And this is why Islam says that you have to protect synagogues and churches and temples and mosques. It doesn't say just simply that it will not, no mosque will be saved in the world. So this is the proof that Muslims should fight for the protection of the religion. We have to protect churches. We have to protect synagogues. We have to protect temples and other worship places. So after having had this message, I don't think there should be any Islamophobia.
So to be an ally is to protect all religions.
Yes, yes.
And to be
Yes,
educated.
yes, and we are at the forefront of it. If you call any Ahmadi to protect your church, we shall come there.
Interesting.
Right.
Okay, well, Your Holiness, thank you so much for taking the time today.
Thank you.
Thank you.